Hello everyone, my name is Corey and this is Armchair Athletes. Welcome to a live stream that was kind of just spur of the moment. I just wanted to provide you with some updates that I have. So if it's your first time here, my name is Corey and this is Armchair Athletes. If you would like to subscribe and like this video, I'd greatly appreciate it. I do plenty of fantasy analyses, case studies, and I answer all of your fantasy football questions in the comment section below. So if you've got any start-sit questions or anything like that, if you're looking way ahead to week 18, by all means, feel free to drop in. I also have a Start 2 Sit 1 YouTube short series. But yeah, if you get value out of fantasy football analysis, this is the place to be. But right now, I really don't want to talk a lot about fantasy. I'm going to go over a couple of things. But before I go any further, folks, I mean, you saw it in the title. I would really appreciate it if all of you could find it in your heart to donate $5, $10 to the Damar Hamlin community toy drive. This is a horrible situation. That video, I'm sure you've all seen it by now, of a very, giving, happy, joyful human being just collapsing on the field, going into cardiac arrest, which we have since learned is a very scary sight. I think a lot of NFL players are reflecting right now, understanding that if they're hit in a certain way in the chest at a certain point, or if they just take a certain blow in general, they have that same risk that they're taking every single time. So, folks, I do have a link in the description for Damar Hamlin's community toy drive. You click right on it. It will take you to the GoFundMe. It's not a scam. It's got like over $5 million, $5.5 million in donations. Please make sure you do that. What I'm going to cover in this live stream is simple. I'm going to go through a few fantasy football apps, and I'm going to give you information and updates on what I understand is happening from the Bengals-Bills cancellation. How does this impact your fantasy football team? Again, I don't care how this impacts fantasy. I really don't. I think I, like many others, just want Damar Hamlin to be okay. But seeing the confusing situation, I figured I would do a little research and provide you with what I know so far, okay? So ESPN Fantasy Football, the matchup period has been extended. I opened up the app earlier, and it tells me right away, hey, we are extending the matchup period, so you're not getting a you win or you lose message right away when you go into the app. I can probably pull it up right here. And I'm just going to go through the different applications, and then we'll go through the situation as a whole, what you can expect, different updates, and like that. Everything like that, pretty much. Okay, so if you go into ESPN, this is what you'll see. The Bengals versus Bills game on Monday, January 2nd, has been postponed by the NFL. The current matchup period will be extended. We will provide more information as it becomes available. Okay, so that simply means that whatever matchup you are in right now, I shouldn't add them. Okay. That simply means whatever matchup you're in right now is essentially frozen. So all scores, everything like that, they're frozen. Those point totals, to my understanding, are frozen. So like Joe Burrow's got like 5 or 6. Stephon Diggs is a couple, that type of thing. We don't know if this game is going to resume. We don't know if this game is going to restart. We don't know if this game is going to get canceled altogether. All we know is that a few minutes into this game, a very tragic thing happened. So as you can see, everything is just kind of faded right now. It's not solidified. It's not going to go down as a win or loss on your record. And this is kind of a different situation for me because I'm in a 2-week fantasy round format, right? So that's what it's going to look like here. But that's ESPN. Okay, NFL.com, what I have for that, no finalization yet. So again, I didn't get the message when I came in. And I think most fantasy football, there's one exception, okay? Most fantasy football platforms are simply just waiting to see what happens with this game. And then from there, they'll make their decision on what to do and how to deal with it from a league perspective. And if you've got like a paper league or anything like that, if people still do that, that's up to your commish, right? But no finalization there. I'm not going to pull that up, but scores are not final. Scores are frozen for those players like Joe Burrow or whoever else is in there. And then if you go into Yahoo, Yahoo actually allocates the money, right? So if you're in a money league, let's say there's a $150 pool. First gets 100, second gets 35. I'm making this up. Third gets 15. That's how that's handled, right? That money goes into a pool that Yahoo is holding, and Yahoo will allocate the money. And I don't see them making any hasty decisions because, you can do the same thing with ESPN, but I've seen a lot of people basically go on an app and then they'll, cash app their commissioner or whatever, and then they allocate the money that way. Yahoo holds the money, so I think they're going to be more cautious than most, along with ESPN or any other app that really holds money. Again, folks, I'm not going to talk about this much longer. If you have any questions, again, I'll go on and answer those, but this is about a human being who's in a really bad state right now, who I hope gets better. I'm going to go to these different tabs, and they are kind of giving updates on the situation. I'm just going to walk you through the research I was doing a couple of hours ago in relation to how this whole thing impacts fantasy, how everything's kind of frozen right now, that type of thing. So if we go here, this is what Yahoo Sports posted. So this is regarding Week 17 and 18. It says, we understand Yahoo Fantasy Football managers are awaiting news regarding the postponed Week 17 matchup between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Buffalo Bills. Our main concern, and most pages are going to say this, as they should, is Damar Hamlin's health at this time. Our thoughts are with Damar, his family, and the Buffalo Bills. These are unprecedented circumstances, so we wanted to provide as much clarity as we can while awaiting the NFL's final decision. So what you need to know. Week 17 standings will update for now, but scoring updates will be applied once a decision about the game is made. So Yahoo is taking that approach that I was talking about before. They're not really going to make any decisions, as most of these platforms won't, until we all find out if or when this game is going to continue. Yahoo will be honoring the official NFL gamebook for Week 17 by updating the stats and fantasy scores in our game to match the official record. So they're updating everything. They're not freezing it. So if you're up 89 to 62 right now or something like that, they're going to add those through because you're still accredited those points. And if your matchup does not involve this Bills-Bengals game, then it's done as far as I'm concerned. I'm not sure if all weeks are being frozen or if wins and losses are being calculated for those certain matchups. And then it also says if official NFL scoring changes impact the result of your Week 17 matchup, we will retroactively adjust Week 18 matchups to reflect the change. So whatever happens in Week 17, they're basically going to go into Week 18 and try and adjust it somehow. I could see a possible scenario, and I have some Reddit fantasy solutions here as well. I could see a possible scenario where this game gets canceled, and then the Bengals game in Week 18, okay, Joe Burrow scores 22. They just give him 22 for both games. I could see that. I could see them just throwing his average down. If he averages 21.5, they just give him 21.5 for the game. So you could go with the average approach. You could double up on however they perform in the next week if this game does not happen. Because, folks, if you saw that video, if you saw everything going on, I think it's safe to say those football players are not too eager to get back on the playing field right now. I mean, the guy was getting CPR on the field of play. It was a very traumatizing experience for many, especially those in attendance, right? So, and those on the field. So then, payouts for private and public prize leagues will not be processed until a final decision is made by the NFL on the Bills-Bengals game status. So a lot of you are worried, and I've had people who are subscribed to this channel who I have on Snapchat and, all these other platforms, and they're saying, oh my goodness, and by the way, this is not what you should be worried about. You should be worried about the status of this human being. I cannot stress that enough, of Damar Hamlin and his health. This is bigger than that. But just to update all of you, because I know this is a very frequently asked question, and that's why I'm having this stream. A lot of you are wondering, how is payout going to work? How is positioning going to work? Yahoo's taking the same stance as most, because it has the private prize league process where it holds the money and then it allocates it at the end of the year. Obviously, this was championship week. It says it right here. This is all you need to know, and this is going to apply to most platforms. It deviates a little, so I will go through some others. Will not be processed until a final decision is made by the NFL on the Bills-Bengals game status, okay? League commissioners have the choice to make manual changes through their commissioner tools, but they're encouraging commissioners to just wait until this decision is made. If your league is in the active Week 18 playoff matchups, set your lineup as usual, so they're not going to delay that. And then the Week 17 Bills-Bengals game is currently in a postponed state, so all stats accumulated hold as for now. So through the first, few minutes of the first quarter. If the game is declared final by the NFL and scored as is, meaning the score is finalized as 7-3, all fantasy points will remain as is. Now, this is the important part, because this is another approach they can take. If the game is canceled and stats are zeroed out by the NFL, all fantasy points accumulated in the Bills-Bengals game will also be zeroed out to reflect the official record. Now, you can't just make up points after that. I don't see fantasy leagues, unless you're in like a real abstract one where, again, somebody can go into commissioner tools and mess with that. I don't see a situation where somebody goes in and decides, okay, well, he might have gotten this, that type of thing, or it was halfway through the first quarter. I don't think it'd be fair to say, let's multiply everybody's score by 8, because this is not how fantasy works. It's not how football works. You're not going to pace things out like that. If the game resumes, scores will accrue as they normally would for Week 17 matchups. So what's going on right now with most of these fantasy platforms, folks, is they're freezing Week 17 for you, and then if you have a Week 18, it's going to go on as per usual, but Week 17 is not completed until the status of this game is determined. That manager's Week 18 matchup would then be a third-place game rather than the championship game. So there's an example, right? A manager wins their Week 17 matchup. They may end up losing after we apply stat corrections following the completion. So Yahoo's warning you right now. There might be a stat correction. If the game gets canceled and you needed 3 points from Joey B and he got you 5 and they cancel it, this is what's going to happen. It's going to be negated, and then you're going to play the third-place game. So how that would work for Week 18 is you're playing. You're still going to have the same score no matter what, right? But your matchup might change. You could score 110 in the third-place game and be playing against somebody who has 105. And then, let's say, it gets shifted and you end up dropping to the fifth-place game, and the fifth-place opponent has 115. You lost. Sucks to suck. Again, this is bigger than fantasy. So I'm just updating you guys, trying to stay transparent. Rescoring previous weeks is not something we take lightly, as these are truly unprecedented circumstances. So again, they're saying this is rare. This is not something they would usually do. Fair outcome for all. So just to update some of you, if you're just dropping in, I'm just giving a quick update on the fantasy playoffs situation right now. As many people are saying, and as I agree with, this is bigger than football. So folks, if you're just hopping in, thanks for joining. I'm Corey. This is Armchair Athletes. There is a link in the description to Damar Hamlin's community toy drive. It's a GoFundMe. It has over $5.5 million in donations. The original goal was not even close to that, so it's good to see people contributing to that, trying to make some light of this event. But I'm just going through all of this right now and basically updating you, because I know it's a frequently asked question, what's happening to fantasy. And what I'm reading from Yahoo right now, and what's probably going to be applied to most platforms, is if the game is canceled, you're getting zeroed out. Like if they don't count this game and they wipe it, that's what's happening. If they finalize it, scores are frozen. If they play on, your matchup is frozen in Week 17, right? So, scenario, you're playing in the semifinals, and it is 77-75, and you got 5 points out of that Bengals-Bills game. In Week 18 starts. We still don't know what's going to happen with the Bengals-Bills game. You're in the championship. Week 17 game ends up getting canceled. All that's going to happen is your point total in Week 18 is going to stay the same. You're just going to end up playing in third place. So your Week 18 opponent might change, and as a result, your spot in the bracket might change, depending on what happens in the Week 17 matchup. I know it's kind of a lot, but bottom line, game gets canceled, you're zeroed out. Game gets frozen, your scores are frozen. Game resumes, the fantasy matchup is still open for Week 17, and you're seeing this across a few apps. You're seeing it right here. This is not done. Okay, it's not moving on. So as a result, your matchup in Week 18 may change if the result of the Week 17 game changes where you are in the bracket. You're still going to score 110 points in Week 18 if you score 110 points in Week 18. Your opponent and the stakes of your matchup just might change, okay? Johnny D says, this is why I wish my playoffs were a one and done instead of a doubleheader each round. This is sad and ridiculous at the same time. I mean, yeah, I know, Johnny. It's a weird situation, but at the end of the day, Damar Hamlin's health is, absolutely a priority. It's just, yes, some people are going to be frustrated because they bet some money or they want to win in fantasy. The fact that this happened at all is a tragedy for sure. I'm going to go through a couple of other articles here. This is just on the sports betting world and fantasy in general. So just talking about the game being paused. So real-time fantasy sports, this is a less common app, but if you play for them, they're kind of reiterating the same thing. Should the NFL decide to reschedule or resume the game this week and considers it a Week 17 game, like what happened many times during COVID, we will consider this a Week 17 game and the stats will count, okay? So again, if this plays at a later time, this game resumes at a later time or restarts at a later time, then it's still a Week 17 game. The matchup window is just extended. And then, however, if the game is canceled or rescheduled for any time after this week, then all Bills-Bengals will receive 0 points directly from our rules, bylaws, in all season-long contests, specifically added for these scenarios. So some leagues kind of prepared for this just because of what was happening with COVID. Again, if you guys are just jumping in, thanks for joining. I am just simply covering the updates in the fantasy football scenario in terms of what situations your score would count in and what they wouldn't. Updates I have across platforms because I do have leagues in a couple of platforms. ESPN Fantasy Football, the matchup period has already been extended. NFL.com, it's just frozen, so it looks like they're extending the matchup period as well. They just don't have a definitive message on it. And then ESPN did send that message already about, extending the matchup date. Yahoo, they allocate money along with ESPN. So I don't see them making any hasty decisions. And what we're seeing, there's 3 scenarios here. Game gets canceled. In that scenario, from what I'm seeing across leagues right now, no matter what platform it is, those points are zeroed out. Game is finalized at 7-3. Points are frozen. Game continues. Your matchup period continues. So again, in that scenario, let's say you won and you're playing in the championship in Week 18, and then we hear game got canceled. You're just going to end up playing for third if that ends up knocking you down a rung. So Week 18, you're going to play who you're going to play in your lineup, but your opponent may change depending on your performance in Week 17, which again is determined by the status of this game. So that's why a lot of fantasy platforms are in limbo right now. And I'm going to go back here. Possible scenarios that were kind of tossed up that I thought were interesting and good food for thought. Multiple ways to handle this, and this is kind of what we're saying already. Points stay as is, current winner is the winner. Split pot and co-champs since a winner can't be determined. That's interesting because, what if someone's up by 100, right? Projected winner becomes the winner based on projected points totals. I hate that because we can't control that at all. I mean, we can't control anything in fantasy football except who we start. But projected winner, I mean, now we're just relying on a bunch of bigwigs sitting around a table, throwing some metrics together and saying this is what could happen. Week 18 score totals of Bengals, Bills players count towards this week. So you double it up, which some leagues do. Some leagues double up Week 17 and 18, which is what I've done. And in that case, you're still not directly addressing the issue of this game possibly not being there. If somebody gets zeroed out, oh well. Again, this is bigger than that. Damar Hamlin's well-being should be the priority here, and it is. But at least you're allowing the matchup to continue because there is a week left in the season. Again, the NFL and all these fantasy football apps, they're kind of just fielding the situation as it is. And they're just trying to use everything they possibly can. If this somehow happened in Week 18, I really don't know what they would do because then, I don't know, maybe they'd have people draft in the playoffs. Who knows? Hopefully something like this never happens again. Week 18 score totals of Bengals, Bills players count towards this week. That's what we were just talking about. Matchup is completely redone for the teams with Week 18 deciding the winner. I wouldn't hate that. It's a hard reset. Except for the fact, I feel like this one and the co-champs, it kind of ignores, and these are just, I'm on Reddit right now, but it kind of ignores the possibility of a blowout. If somebody's up by 60 and their opponent has Tyler Bass, obviously you don't want to do co-champs there because I don't know if a kicker's ever had 60 or even 30 or 40, right? So those are just some possible scenarios. And also, yeah, that's pretty much it. That's it. Like I said, fantasy football doesn't really matter right now. I'm just doing this stream because I know it's a question a lot of you had. What matters is Damar Hamlin's well-being and his survival, his loved ones, his friends, his family. what everybody has heard of and saw or knows about is a super scary situation of a very caring human being who collapsed on the field and had to get CPR. So, folks, I mean, fantasy football really doesn't matter. I know some people have money in their leagues, but the number one priority here is just hoping this guy's okay, hoping that medical professionals can run their tests and bring him back. I've heard he's progressing. I saw a report where he's getting 50% oxygen instead of 100. I'm nowhere near a medical expert. I'm just somebody who watches sports and analyzes things very well, or very thoroughly, I guess. But I just want to restate that there is a link in the description of this live stream, and when it turns into an archive video, it will still be there. It is for Damar Hamlin's community toy drive. He has done this for 3 years, and it is to provide children in the community that he grew up in, over by the University of Pittsburgh where he went. It's to provide them with toys, and it's usually around the holiday season. So it's the third year he's done it, and it's already at $5.5 million. It has completely exploded over the goal. Bills Mafia started that, and then everybody else just started pitching in. If you can add to that at all, like I said, the link for that GoFundMe, don't try and look it up because maybe a fake one will come up. The link for that GoFundMe is in the description, and I would highly suggest that you access it and just contribute in any way you can. What we saw was horrifying. Yeah. I had a friend when I was like 10 or 11. He was playing basketball, and he had a heart irregularity, and he collapsed on a basketball court at our local rec center, and he was taken to the hospital, and they were not able to get him an AED in time, which just, that's the thing where they shock you back, and they try and get the heart going again, and he passed away. So you never know when this thing is going to happen. You never know when a situation like this could pop up. Damar Hamlin just got hit in the wrong place at the wrong time. Luckily, they were able to bring out an AED and revive him. And now I believe he has a breathing tube. And there's constant updates too. So don't use me as your primary source for the status of Damar Hamlin. I'm just here to update you on this and how it impacted fantasy. But I just want to say this is way bigger than fantasy sports at all. This is somebody's life. This is somebody's son, brother, cousin, somebody's best friend, somebody's former student, somebody's player, somebody's companion. This guy is doing a toy drive every single year for the last couple of years. He's using his platform to the best of his ability to try and help out children. And yesterday, his life probably flashed before his eyes. And I really hope he makes a full recovery, because there's people in situations like his who collapse and they don't have those resources around them. They are not able to be brought back. So, folks, if you can find it in you at all to donate to his foundation, I think that would be the best way to help him out right now, along with just sending your thoughts and prayers to him. So that's all I have. I just wanted to update you guys on how this impacts fantasy. Again, it really doesn't matter, but I knew it was going to be a frequently asked question. So I hope that this live stream was informative. We will be doing waiver wire ads as per usual, players you should avoid. And then, folks, the season's ending pretty soon, so expect some off-season content. We're going to be doing tier lists with quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. We're going to be talking about the 5 most disappointing and the 5 most shocking in a good way players. And we're going to be doing a lot of other coverage as well going into the off-season mock drafts. Lots. And we'll be breaking down different teams too. So how many players in the Vikings are, fantasy eligible, Chargers, that kind of thing. And we'll just rank teams from there. And we're doing shorts every day. So again, make sure you check out our Start 2 Sit 1 series. We'll be doing that for week 18 in the next couple of days. But I'm Corey Sparks. This is Armchair Athletes, and I hope you all have a wonderful night.